I just want to touch base with you about the policy paper and see if I can answer any questions that you may have about it. Feel free to email me, and I'll just, in general, go over what the paper is supposed to look like and give you some possible ideas of topics for it if you have not already determined what you'd like to write it on. Well, it is called a policy paper. It doesn't necessarily have to be a specific policy, although it is nice if you can find how policy ties into it, or if there is a something in the works that is about regulating it or managing it or related to it. Some places that you can look for topics are like if you go to your state legislation page and put in different bills or that kind of thing that they might be talking about, you might find something that's new in the works. I know, like, for example, marijuana is big in a lot of states right now where they're discussing it. And so that could be something, or maybe it could be funding. Mental health is huge. So that could be that, or it could just be a community health topic of interest that you have as well. So, like I said, well, it says policy. It's not doesn't have to totally be related to a certain type of policy. If you have questions about that, let me know. So you can also look at the chapters in your book, and anything in there would tie into obviously public and community health. You can choose a topic from there. Some topics that students have done in the past includes things like refugees or immigrant health care, bioterrorism, sex or human trafficking, language barriers and access to care, the vaccine or immunization debate, the opioid crisis or polypharmacy for older drugs, for older adults, sorry, cost of drugs, end of life care, costs versus benefits, what services are available, that kind of thing, vulnerable populations and what that looks like, things like Ebola and HIV, the Affordable Care Act, gun control, or like I said, mental health. So that's just a few ideas for you. But really think about something that you have an interest in. It's always a lot more fun to write a paper if you're researching it, if it's something that you personally have buy-in to rather than that you're just simply doing it because it's a requirement. So pick a topic, research it, and then make sure you have 6 scholarly sources at a minimum. And two of those, only two of those can be like a website. So the rest will have to be articles or books, that kind of thing. And then you will gather your information and write your paper. You'll start with an introduction, and there in your syllabus, it lists the requirements, and then there is also a rubric for it. So you will start with your introduction, your thesis, and your rationale, why you chose the topic. How does it relate to public health, community health? And yeah, if there's a personal reason that you chose it as well, you can include that as well. And then you will go on to present the issue. And typically, if it's something that's got both sides, a pro and con, um, you'll list that and then restate why it matters to public health and to nursing. And then how is this a population-based issue? So how is it, so like for example, diabetes, it impacts the individual, but if you were doing something on diabetes, how does that as a whole impact the health of our community? So you want it to be population focused, not only on the individual. So, and then talk about who the group is, who the people are, how it impacts them, why it impacts them as part of the group dynamics. The literature review is a synthesis, so that's not really a place to put your own opinion about things, but it's where you are putting the facts that you gathered from the articles and tying those together. And then include the core functions of public health, assessment, assurance, and policy. I would encourage you to go back and look at your textbook. In the early pages in chapter 1, it clearly spells out what those are, and that you are using that as a guide when you are including that in your paper. So, because the assessment is more than just a physical assessment. It includes different data. The assurance includes things like workforce, as well as just making sure there's adequate resources, that kind of thing. And then the policy can include things like funding and also like, is there a specific policy that's related to it? And education pieces, as well as how are you disseminating that. So like I said, go back and look at that and make sure you have a good understanding of what that is. Then how can this topic apply to your own practice area? Use a model of public health, and there are several models in your book. And in some of the chapters already, you've been introduced to some of those models, but otherwise go back and do that as well. Correlate to a nurse theorist, that you're going to have to look for an outside source because that is not in your book. And then correlate the thesis to the literature, so kind of put it all together. So what does the literature say, and how does that tie in with your topic or what you thought? Then again, how does this impact the population health? And then just make sure that that part is really supported by your literature review, that it's not public, just your own personal opinion or public opinion. And so when you're looking for your articles, make sure too that they tie into to um, support your end product. So, and then please have some application to Christian nursing. How does this tie in with ethics and social justice? APA, think about your format. Remember, if you have issues with writing or the APA format, you can use the Writing Center and they will give you some guidance, but just remember you have to have some turnaround time to get that feedback. And there is also an APA template in your library resources that you can look at. And then I will also with this attach a sample APA template that just has some real basic guidelines to APA that I put together for some of our students here on campus as they were learning APA. So that'll help you. Definitely read through your paper, make sure that it flows smoothly, look for grammar errors, those type of things. And I always encourage people, read your paper out loud, because that will really help you to figure out if it flows properly, um, and that kind of thing as well. So hopefully that helps you a little bit. But as I said, absolutely, as you get started working on this, if you have questions, let me know, and I would be more than happy to help you. So have a great Thanksgiving. I hope you get a little bit of time off to enjoy your family and friends as well. So take care.